Redditors who gave up their dream to settle for a more comfortable life. How did it turn out? My dream was to become a translator for Nintendo. Specifically the Zelda franchise. Studied Japanese and lived there for a year. Then became a video game translator at a small studio. Afterwards a localization project manager at a bigger Korean company. Worked my way up to maybe one day be hired by Nintendo. Lost more and more passion for games on the way. Heard awful stories about working at Nintendo and slowly realized that this isn't the right job for me after all. Translators are, most of the time, underpaid and the whole thing isn't as romantic as it seems. Decided to do something entirely else. Left the gaming and localization industry and am now a really happy, and well-paid, product manager for an e-commerce company. I will never go back. Knowing Japanese, well the bit that is left after not using it for years, is a good party trick still. So no regrets. Was a fun time but it had to end. My dream is to have a comfortable and secure life. Still working on it? No. I was on the path to becoming a professor. And I don't regret leaving academia at all. The pay is terrible. The requirements to achieve your dream can crush the soul out of you if you're not careful. And the chances of achieving actual job security grow dimmer by the day. There are some things I miss about it. But I really can't regret choosing a good paying, if somewhat more boring, office job that gives me security and disposable income to pursue my own hobbies and travel, before the pandemic of course. Edit, wow. Thanks so much for the upvotes and awards. It's been really interesting to read about everyone's different experiences and perspectives. I feel like I made a temporary COVID decision. I started working in landscaping and went back to college. It's not exactly a dream. But I was able to pay for school and make money during the pandemic. So I just consider it a temporary lateral move. I went to school for and worked as a video game developer. I saw the crunch times, the frequent layoffs, and general instability of the industry and decided it wasn't for me after all. Been doing work in various industries trying to find something I want to do for a living. Came to the conclusion that I will never like working. So I am settled in at an aerospace manufacturing plant that has been in operation since World War II and I can and probably will spend the rest of my working days here. I've decided that it's better for me to get my life's fulfillment from my hobbies and relationships instead of my work. A little bit. I bounced around the lower levels of the film industry. Earning nothing. Earning $5 a day. Earning $8.20 an hour. I really enjoyed most jobs. Got some great stories. But after 10 plus years of missed opportunities, missing out on jobs to those more connected, of not having enough to do, I could blame the early days of digital but I just didn't go hard enough. It was time. My 30s were approaching. I had less than 5 figures in the bank despite still living at home and having next to no expenses. My romantic life consisted of admiring the actresses from afar and being an ass to anyone who got close. I switched to teaching and I mostly enjoy the work. I still tap into my skills occasionally. I make movies with my classes. Last year made a whole bunch during remote teaching. I actually had the self-esteem, and cash, to start dating and am now engaged to a girl I don't deserve and have been trying to marry for months. I don't regret it. But I do miss it. Honestly turned out great. I realized my band wasn't going to get a record deal after a few years and then after playing for other people's bands for a while it started to become less fun. I got a proper job. Started working on my career and used my new spare time to start playing rugby again. Now I've got a really good job in a sector I enjoy working in. Married. Kids. Nice house, all that stuff, and I still play rugby on Saturdays, pre-pandemic, to keep things a little different as well as keeping in shape. I don't really see it as giving up on my dream. It was just recognizing that it wasn't going to happen. I'm very fond of that period of my life and having spent quite a few years chasing that particular dream I don't have any regrets or what ifs about being in a band. I was an actor. I was doing okay at it. Had a few tasty parts on TV. I'm a software engineer now. I don't regret making the decision to do something else more secure. I like writing software, probably more than I enjoyed acting in fairness. I regret seriously sucking at auditions for the last year or so of my acting career. I likely could have gone much further had I committed properly to it. Turned out great. Just not right at the moment as I am still job hunting after having to quit my previous job. Still no regrets though. I went to college to become a 3D animator. Something I always dreamed about. I was top of the class. Constantly won awards for my work. I honestly thought I was going to make it big. Then the final semester started and all the seniors were required to go to a special hiring event where tons of big names would be. I got my portfolio and resume copies ready to go. And spent hours researching the big names and their projects as well as rehearsing lots of practice questions. It was devastating. No one would look twice at my stuff. Introduced myself. Made some awkward small talk as they were so disinterested. Then as I walked away they would immediately put it in the stack with hundreds of other portfolios. And not in the special pile. I switched up my game. I started introducing myself with a quick mention that I had a background in programming. I did. Thinking that maybe that would give me an edge. Oh boy, did it work. Suddenly I was getting personal business cards, phone numbers and emails. My resume was put on the special pile. It was at that moment I realized I went into the wrong field. I was just a tiny insignificant drop in a sea of artists, many of whom were much more talented than I could ever be. Finished up my degree and went back to college for a BS in computer science. Got my first job right out of college from an internship I did over the summer. The job itself was heaven. And I really enjoyed it. It also helped that I made bank when I was there. Paid off all my school loans within 3 years and had plenty to invest and put into savings. While it sucks not having anything right now, I'm hoping to find something soon. Side note, the 3D stuff I still do as a hobby. Not nearly as good as I once was. But it is still fun and relaxing. Chased my dream. Took decades. And did better than I thought I could. Stayed focused throughout. Thing is, I should have reevaluated long ago. Turns out I was chasing the wrong dream. I regret not recognizing that the dream can and should change. If you blindly chase one dream, the finish line isn't necessarily fulfilling. It's not a fancy dream like most here. But I dreamed of opening a child care center, daycare, for low-income families back where I grew up. Went to school for early childhood education. Worked as a teacher for a while in daycare and private kindergarten. In there. Got pregnant to my daughter and was making so little due to child care costs, even with the employee discount, that I left for an office job. Slowly climbed the ladder. Making 1% more than my teacher wages. Then 2. Then 5. Then 100. Then 250. Then 350. Then more and climbing. As a friggin' recruiter. A boring, non-creative, emotionally unfulfilling role that helps candidates but exists to serve the company. I still doodle my dream center layout. I browse inventory catalogs and look at current staffing costs. I check out every center that I drive by. But knowing that I'd be doing a difficult job for less than 1/3 of what I make now as a center director? Nope. Can't do it. Can't kill myself to help someone else. Did that my entire life. Gotta worry about me now. I'm the opposite. I dropped lawyer school to do professional scuba diving at the other side of the world. Never looked back. It was fun. But no one gives a shit if you're a professional bassoonist and there really isn't enough paying work. I did it professionally for 8 years before quitting to raise kids. Now I work in IT. If I had to do it over again I'd have just gotten a real job and not put so much time into an instrument that I don't like playing. When I was in college, I wasn't the most enthusiastic student. I barely hung onto my grades and spent most of my time partying. I mostly hung out with a buddy of mine who played drums for a thrash punk band that was on the cusp of being something. He taught me how to play and I was surprisingly good at the drums. One day, my buddy broke his arm and the band asked me to sub in for him. I played like 5 shows with them and had a hell of a time doing it. While he was recovering, my buddy wound up moving out of state and the band asked if I wanted to replace him permanently. I think about that moment a lot but wound up changing my major and getting through college. I now work in IT for a large company and think it worked out for the best. In hindsight, the music was pretty much unlistenable and the band went nowhere. But there are definitely days when I'm overwhelmed at work and I wonder what could have been. Maybe it's just age at this point. But I don't think I could have kept up with it for long. I don't know why, but this thread makes me feel sad, and I'm 17. 18 months ago I left my mediocre career as a stuntman for more secure work as a DOD contractor. I'm now living life in Japan with a loaded bank account, and my wife can focus on her writing. Although I miss performing stunts, I now enjoy my day-to-day life without worrying about finances or health insurance. Edit, I regret nothing. I can say I doubled Gerard Butler and Michael Madsen, but it was time to move on to provide for my new family. Came from a very traditional patriarch Indian family. Pushed into finance, made lots of money, was utterly depressed. Found love. Got married quickly. Had 3 kids quickly. Became a stay-at-home dad as wife kicked ass in her field of work. Best career trade-off I've made in my life. As I whip up the meanest batch of strawberry banana pancakes this AM, smiley face. I loved drawing and cartooning all through high school. Wanted to go to college for it. On the advice of a counselor, I got in touch with someone in graphic design, actually got to talk on the phone. After a few questions about my classes, no art classes, and my portfolio, didn't have one, they paused and went, "Well, you haven't really done any of the things you'd need to do if you want to pursue this." Oops. First thing out of high school, I got on the path to do X-ray and wound up meeting my wife on the job. I'm working in CT right now while she's home with our baby. I still draw for fun. Wouldn't change a thing. Thanks for watching.